Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Today is Sunday, November 3rd, 2019, and I would just like to introduce you to some of the groups of horses we have that live communally and explain why we've sorted these horses the way we have. This particular group is in a small corral area towards the front of the sanctuary, and there are 6 horses that live here. The reason that they're together is because most of them have some special needs that include some type of ambulatory issues. They either have issues with their legs or their hooves or a neurologic condition that requires them to stay as quiet as possible. The main reason why we've chosen this group is because they all get along. They don't abuse one another, they don't bully one another. They all get along when shelter's required, when we feed them as a group, and that is the number one thing that we look at is, do the horses get along and are they safe in the groups that they're in? This is the leader of this group right here, and his name is Sujal. He's not actually a sanctuary horse, he's one of my personal horses, but he is an awesome leader for this group. Because he is a wise and fair leader, he makes sure that this group stays in line, that they behave as they should as a group of horses, but he doesn't hurt anyone. And that's really important because some of these horses can't be in a bigger area or can't be around horses that would bully them or potentially knock them down or kick at them or bite them or injure them because they just can't move around very well. So probably the next horse in this group I should introduce you to is Aralon. And you see that he has his leg lifted up. In 2014, he had an extremely severe injury to this right hind leg on one of the wire fences. A stray dog in the neighborhood was chasing the herd. He got too close to the fence. I don't know if he kicked at the dog or what happened. I didn't see it actually happen. But he got this leg tangled in the wire fence and he completely degloved his cannon bone and it obliterated his extensor tendons. And the extensor tendons are the ones that keep the hoof in a position to land flat on the ground. So he doesn't have those in this right hind leg. And at first when the injury happened, he was knuckling under when he walked, and he had to learn how to lift this leg very high and let gravity help him put his hoof flat on the ground. His recovery was long. It was 6 to 8 months. He had several surgeries. We had to use so many bandages and splints that it was costing us $600 a month, but he's doing really well now, 5 years later. It's just that we can't have him with a group of horses that's going to run him around a lot or that could potentially cause him to fall or get knocked down. But he gets around very well with his leg like that in the situation he's in. This is Sitar, and Sitar was part of the Montana 10 that arrived here in May of 2016. And it became clear right away that he didn't walk normally, that he didn't feel comfortable when we lifted one foot off the ground. It was almost like he didn't know where his feet were. And we found out after we had our veterinarian do some diagnostics that he has a neurological issue that has to do with some spinal cord impingement. 2 of his vertebrae are impinging his spinal cord, and so he's what we call neurologic. He does have some difficulty with proprioception, so he doesn't always know where each of his 4 feet are, and we've had to work with him very carefully when we trim his feet because he becomes uncomfortable and uncertain and a little bit frightened when we pick feet up, but he's doing really well. We can't have him in a group of horses that's going to run him around a lot, bully him, kick at him, bite at him, because he can fall over very easily because he has to move carefully when he moves around because his brain just doesn't always know where his feet are. This is Lucy. Lucy's one of my favorite horses in this group just because she is so beautiful, but mainly because when we first met Lucy, she was a little bit uncertain around people and she was kind of a skittish horse, and she's so friendly now that she shifts herself voluntarily from this corral to the pen we feed her in and back, and I'm just really thrilled that she's come so far behaviorally since she's been here, and it clearly indicates that she is comfortable here, she's comfortable around us. She has some issues with her knees. She's got really bad knees in front, and her previous owners said that their veterinarian diagnosed some issues in the hind legs involving the hocks and stifles. She has to be maintained in an area where she's not going to move around too much, but where she still gets to move around some and express natural equine behaviors like walking, trotting, rolling, lying down, getting up, and interacting with other horses. This corral and this group of horses have been perfect for Lucy. because she has maintained soundness as long as we keep her in here. Now, when we've let this group out in a larger pasture for the day, we do that occasionally for some enrichment for them, and they do a lot of moving and a lot of running around in one of our 10-acre pastures. She has exhibited some lameness at the end of the day. So that just indicates to us that we're doing right by keeping her in here with this group, because she's doing fabulous in here and she doesn't need any pain management or anything as long as she's kept with this group. It's just enough space for her to be a horse, but not so much space that she is overtaxing her body and causing herself any lameness. Hi, Buddy. Hi there, Buddy. Buddy is a special needs boarder who has been boarded here for over a year now and will probably be boarded here for another year. He's an Arabian gelding that just needs senior care, which means that we have to soak his food, we have to make sure that he's maintaining his weight, we have to make sure that his hooves and his dental care are maintained. We're not sure of his exact age. His owners bought him off of Craigslist. He had been a lesson horse for 7 years. The people who own him now have had him for 6 years, and they weren't sure how old he was when they got him, but we are guessing based on what our dentist is telling us and our veterinarian that he's probably around 25 years old. He used to live with Lucy, and the reason he's with this group is, again, he's not overactive. He gets along fine with these horses, and it's kept Lucy calm and moving around less and taxing her bad knees and her bad hind legs less to be with a horse that she knows well. So initially, that's why Buddy was with this group. He doesn't necessarily need to remain with this group. He could probably go out in one of our 10-acre pastures with some other Arabians, but he fits in so well with this group, and this is such a cohesive, well-established family group of horses now that we just don't want to disrupt that. This is Amir, and Amir was part of the Montana 10 that came here in May of 2016. Amir had a chronic hip wound, and that hip wound was infected, and it was constantly oozing pus and infected material, and it wouldn't heal. He'd been on oral medication, the wound had been cleaned, and it wasn't healing, and it had probably been there about 6 months, so it was getting pretty disgusting. He was also a cryptorchid, which means that both of his testicles had not descended and they were retained up in his abdominal cavity, and that requires some abdominal surgery in order to geld a horse that's like that, or to castrate a horse that's like that. They have to do an abdominal surgery, and so that's why he ended up with the rest of the Montana 10 here at Spirit Keeper. He was going to be euthanized if we weren't able to take him because of that chronic hip wound and because he needed that abdominal surgery to do his castration. He is only 5 years old, so when he arrived here in 2016, he was just 2 years old, and he was kind of wild. And we knew that he was going to have some surgery, so I trained him extensively the first few months he was here, and then we scheduled an exploratory surgery with our surgeon to look at the hip and at the same time do the castration, and that all went very well. What we suspect happened is that he got impaled on something in his hip or shot by an arrow, but we did radiographs and exploratory surgery and didn't find any metal in that hip wound, but it was about a 6-inch deep wound that went into his muscle and into his body, and it was just too deep and had been there too long to heal with oral antibiotics and just us cleaning the outside. So the veterinarian had to debride that wound from the inside. He treated it, cleaned it out extensively, put him back on oral antibiotics, and kept it clean, and it healed up fine. And then he was also castrated at the same time. So Amir's actually doing really well now, and although his physical condition no longer fits the criteria for him to be in our Sanctuary for Life program, we really don't ever send a horse away once they've been admitted into the Sanctuary for Life program. We have only ever adopted out 2 of our sanctuary horses, and those went to foster homes who had fostered those special needs horses for over 2 years and wanted to take on their adoption, even though those 2 horses did have special needs. If at some point our bylaws changed or our board decided that since he no longer has special needs that meet the criteria to be in the sanctuary program, I would personally adopt him, because I've spent the last 3 years working with him, training him, He had a long recovery from those surgeries, and I'm emotionally bonded with him. As you can see, he's extremely trustful of me and vice versa. And so if for some reason we changed the rules of our sanctuary and decided to boot him out since he no longer meets the criteria, he would not be leaving. He would stay with me here at home. Wouldn't you? Brownie's been here about 1.5 years, and again, he's another horse whose age we don't know exactly. We think he's around 27 to 30 years old, and he's seen some physical abuse in his time. The person who relinquished him to Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary had only had him about 1 year and took him in basically as a rescue, as a charity case to be a companion to her older horse. And that worked out really well, but her older horse only lived another year. And then Brownie was depressed, Brownie was by himself. Brownie has had physical abuse mainly in his mouth area, which I can assume is from misuse of a bit and mistreatment either under saddle or in hand regarding equipment that's been put on his face. But he's missing some teeth completely. He's got scarring on his tongue and inside his gums, and he's missing a whole chunk of his right lower gum down here. And so food spills out of that area when he eats, and he has to eat mash. So we soak his food for him, he eats mashed up food. It's just horrific evidence of abuse inside of his mouth and on the exterior of his lip right here. Those types of injuries are not going to happen on their own. That's from abuse by a human who has mistreated him with equipment, probably some type of a bit, because most of the scarring and evidence of damage is inside the mouth, other than this spot right here, where he's just missing a whole chunk of his lower gum. He's very distrustful of people. It's taken him almost 1 year to be trustful enough to come up to us and to allow us to touch him and pet him. When we used to feed him, we used to have to, well, he would just go to the other side of the pen whenever we would come near, so we would put his food in and then he would wait for us to leave before he would come eat. He's much more trusting of us now. He gets tons of treats. We basically just let him be and do what he wants to do. He doesn't get along very well with other horses. He gets along a little bit with one of our groups of mares and occasionally gets turned out with them. We did try to put him with this group, which is 5 geldings and the 1 mare, Lucy, but that didn't go well. In fact, Brownie instigated a lot of fights. I think every horse in this group was wounded by the time I got Brownie out, because he's quite fine next to them. He's very quiet next to them, and they visit over the fence. But when I put Brownie with the group, you know, we thought we could take this pen down and they could all be together. He was very violent with them, kicking them, biting them, and breaking the skin. And we have tried to integrate him with some other groups of horses, and that has not gone well. He doesn't seem to integrate well with other geldings, other than he's okay with them as long as there's a barrier. He does better with mares, and so occasionally we will give him some time in a bigger turnout in a pasture area or a bigger corral with some mares or by himself, so that he can run around and express some natural behaviors. But the pen he's in is big enough for him to do some trotting and some walking and some rolling and express natural behaviors. And I have caught him recently doing mutual grooming behavior over the fence or through the fence with some of these horses in here. And so maybe at some point in his life here at the sanctuary, he will be able to permanently be with a group. And maybe it's just taking a little bit longer with him because of past experiences that he's had. It did take a very long time for us to be able to pet him. And for him to come up to me like he just did is just amazing compared to his behavior when he first arrived. The large group of horses that I just told you about, we call Sujal's group, and they're in this pen because they need to be kept quiet, because they all get along well, and because this is the best environment that we have found to manage these 6 particular horses in. And these 6 particular horses are together because they have bonded and they get along well with each other. Brownie is in this pen next to this group so that he can have some limited social interaction with other horses and a big enough space to express some natural equine behaviors, but so that he doesn't get into fights with other horses, we have him sectioned off. And Brownie's actually really good about being in almost any pen we put him in. So sometimes we'll move him around if we need this pen for somebody else. And as long as he's in a pen or paddock by himself, he does just fine interacting with the horses next to him. It's just a different story when he's actually loose with them in an open space. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can email us at spiritkeeperequinesanctuary@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook, or go to our website at spiritkeeperequine.org.